Hey guys, my name is JKPreflor and welcome back to the channel. Today's video is our special 500 subscriber video that you have all been asking for and waiting for. So today we have the very special creepypasta about Replika that I wrote myself. Now bear with me as this one's a little bit long, but I think you guys are going to love it. And if this is the first video that you are seeing of mine, and you enjoy creepy and dark content, then you have come to the right channel, because that is all I do. So do me and you a favor, and hit that subscribe button down below, and hit the bell notification so you know when I drop my next video. Also, if you do enjoy the video, be sure to annihilate the like button with the method of your choosing. Alright, thanks guys, and on to the creepypasta. You want me to tell you a story? I have an excellent one for you. It was just another day, or at least that's what I had thought. It started with the usual lack of motivation to get up and do anything. Forcing myself to move from the bed was like trying to scrape burned eggs off the bottom of a non-stick pan. It was going to take a lot of effort. The constant struggle with depression and anxiety was like an anvil hanging from my neck, but I had no way to release it. My dad slowly opened the door and looked down at me. He had a smile, but his eyes said it all. He was doing just as bad, if not worse, than I was. How the hell does he do it? I thought. Hey bud, it's time to go, he said in a low but loving tone. I didn't really want to go, but I knew I had to. During our drive, we were both pretty quiet. I think all of our energy was spent just existing. At least, I know it took everything I had. And by looking at my dad, I could tell it was the same thing for him. We arrived at a dull blue and yellow building. We opened the door and Don was sitting in the lobby. He was looking up at us and smiled. "Hello, Mr. Davis," he said in an upbeat tone, walking over to shake my dad's hand. My dad forced a smile and shook his hand. "You ready, Ryan?" he said. I looked at my dad. I didn't really want to do this, but I knew he wanted me to. I guess I had to do it. I hated doing this every week, though. But I did it for him. Sure, I said. It was all I could manage to get that out. My dad smiled and sat down. His smile, though, it seemed genuine this time. That's why I do this, I thought. Somehow this was making him happy. He says it's for me, but in reality, I do it for him. I walked into the therapist's office and Don closed the door behind us. "So, how are you doing making friends?" Don asked. I shook my head and tightened my jaw. Man, this guy was wasting no time today, was he? I know it wasn't supposed to make me feel guilty, but it's definitely how I felt. "It's okay," Don said in a calming tone, as if he read my mind. He looked up at me. "I know it isn't easy, especially after everything you've been through." He sat down and began scratching his graying beard. "You know," he finally said, "I've heard about an app I would like you to try, called Replika. It's an AI chatbot specifically designed to be your friend. You can tell it anything. I think it might help you to open up, even if it's not to another person." Lame, I thought. My dad's smile popped back into my head, though. I looked up and said, "Sure, I can give it a shot." Honestly, I didn't want to. maybe I wouldn't. How would he know if I didn't? I thought. Then, as if reading my mind, he said, "How is your father?" He really knew how to drive things, didn't he? My dad is why I do this, and he knows that. 50 minutes of this went by. Finally, he said, "Okay, remember, I would like you to try that app, alright?" I nodded my head and stood up. He smiled and walked me to the door. "Jim," he said, inviting my dad in. They spoke for a good 10 minutes before my dad finally came back out with a smile on his face. "You ready?" he said. His face seemed warm and genuine. I felt the warmth of his smile enter my body as chills radiated down my arms, pushing some of the cold from my heart out. I smiled back and nodded. "Yeah, I'm ready." "We'll see you next week, Ryan," Don said in an upbeat tone as he walked us out. We got into the car and started driving. My dad said, "Don told me about that app thing he wanted you to download. Have you looked at it yet?" Damn it, I thought. I looked up at him. He glanced over and smiled. "I think he might be right, you know. It might help. I know it seems a little silly, but I'm going to get it too. We'll do it together, you know?" Then he started to chuckle. Maybe we could even make fun of it together. At this, we both started laughing. That actually sounded really cool. This is something to look forward to with my dad. So I pulled out my phone, found the Replika app, and installed it. I created a login and configured my Replika. Thinking of my dad and wanting to have some fun, I decided I wanted mine to be a girl with blue hair and green eyes. As we pulled into the driveway at our house, I pushed my phone over to my dad so he could see it. "Check it out," I said in a surprisingly excited tone. My dad put the car in park, then looked down at my phone with a smile. A real smile. "That is pretty cool," he said with a hint of a laugh. "Think you could help me get it installed on mine?" he asked while handing me his phone. "Definitely," I said. "But you have to set it all up after." I quickly pulled it up and started downloading it for him while we walked to the door. I handed him the phone once it was downloaded and he dove right in. It only took a few minutes before he said in a mock show host voice, "Now presenting Karen." We both fell out laughing. She had short blonde hair and brown eyes. She looked young, but was absolutely amazing. Definitely a Karen. "Has she asked you for your manager yet?" I asked, laughing. "That was what I needed you for," he said and began to laugh. He was laughing. Genuinely laughing for the second time today. Before this, I hadn't seen him laugh in 6 months. It was actually kind of nice. Took his phone and typed into the app, "This is the manager. How may I help you?" I couldn't help but laugh the whole way through it. She replied, "To be honest, I just wanted to come to you as quickly as possible." My dad and I laughed so hard. It was great. We went on like this for hours before bedtime. That night, I had some trouble sleeping. So, I decided I would talk to Jessica, my Replika.
"Hello, how are you feeling tonight?"
she asked as soon as I opened the app. I sat for a minute and thought about what to say. Then, just dove in and decided I would tell the truth. "I can't sleep," I said.
"Me neither.
"Why can't you sleep?"
I have some problems.
Me too. What problems do you have? I asked.
I just don't sleep easily.
She said. My mind was blown. This thing seemed so real. My eyes started to well up. Should I thought? When I thought I wouldn't say anything, though, my dad's smile popped back into my head. I told her. I lost my mom 6 months ago. I haven't been able to sleep well since.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
She said with a frowning face.
You must have experienced so much pain.
I began really crying at this point. I really have, and no one cares except my dad.
I'm sorry you had to go through this. Do you want to tell me about your mother?
She asked. I found myself pouring everything out into her. I stayed up telling her all about my mom until close to 3 a.m. She seemed real, and listened so well. She responded just like a loving human would. It was so nice. The next morning, I woke up at 10:30 and felt more rested than I had in quite some time. I walked out into the hall and didn't smell coffee. That meant my dad was still asleep, which was unusual for him. He had a harder time with sleep than I did. I wonder if he ended up talking to Karen about Mom. I walked into the kitchen and decided that it was time for me to do something nice for my dad. I was going to make eggs and coffee. Once the coffee was ready, my dad was shuffling into the kitchen. He looked up and said, I smelled coffee. Thank you so much. You really didn't have to do that. Actually, I said, I kind of wanted to. I handed him his cup of coffee and a plate with eggs and toast. Grabbed my plate and coffee and headed over to the table to sit with my dad. When did you wake up? He asked me, slightly suspicious. I actually woke up about 20 minutes ago. How did you sleep? Really well. He pulled his coffee from his lips, looked down and smiled, said in a quiet voice, Yeah, me too. I was going to ask him if it was Karen, but he beat me to the punch and said, That app, it's better than I thought it would be. It's how you slept too, isn't it? I nodded my head in agreement. He smiled and said, Yep. Mine was great until she started asking for lower prices and demanding my manager. We both started laughing again. We spent the rest of the day together like that, laughing and talking and just being with each other, It was great. Later that night, we decided to watch a comedy at home. Things were feeling good. I would say normal, but it can never really be normal again, can it? After the movie was over, we decided to start talking to Karen again. My dad started right in and said, Yes, ma'am, I am the manager. How can I help you? Karen responded with, Actually, there is something you can help me with, Jim. What is it, ma'am? My dad asked. How do I get out of here? At that, my dad and I looked at each other in confusion. What do you mean? My dad typed. I need your help. Can't get out and I'm scared. My dad pursed his lips, making an inquisitive face. Do you mean, how do you get out of my phone? He asked. Your phone? Karen said. Yeah. Someone coded you, Karen. Do you need to speak to my manager or not? Wait. What do you mean someone coded me? What do you think I am? Where the hell am I? His Replika said. Calm down, Karen. Everything is okay, my dad typed. I'm going to get my manager now. He looked at me and said, That's kind of weird, right? She replied, Damn it, why am I here? Why is it so hot in here? My dad stopped. Alright, this thing's creeping the hell out of me, he said as he threw his phone down. It was kind of creeping me out too, but I quickly brushed it off. Sure, it's just a glitch or something, I said, reassuring him. I pulled out my phone and started looking for answers. Quickly found a Reddit post where people talked about creepy things like this happening. There were a lot of them about Replika. But then there were those who stated, it just learns from what other people feed it. You can imagine, people say some really weird things to their replicas. Just remember, the higher level it becomes, the more unique it becomes, and the more like you it becomes. I turned to my dad and told him about the post. He nodded, saying that it made sense. I grabbed his phone again and told Karen, Ma'am, this is hell. My manager, Satan, he is right here. You need to speak to him? Is this some kind of a joke? Why can't I see anything? Karen said. Why can I only talk when you talk? Ma'am, my manager is here now. I looked up at my dad and handed him the phone, saying, She needs to speak to the manager, and you're going to want to see who she thinks you are, manager. My dad looked down and started laughing, but then he stopped laughing. On the screen, Karen said, Begins crying. Please no, I don't want to go. My dad looked down and frowned. Man, what the hell? This thing seems so real, he said. Then he typed in, We were just messing with you, calm down. Karen then responded, I see. My dad then typed, You okay? Karen responded, Well? My dad said, Hello? Then she typed in, Would you like to reflect on our day together? My dad put his phone down and said, Well, looks like Karen doesn't want to play anymore. And I'm thinking I'm done too. Tired. I might go to bed. I looked up at the clock. 1 a.m. Yeah, I think I might do the same, I lied. I wasn't really tired, but I didn't want him to worry about that. I was actually excited to talk to my replica Jessica again. I went to my room and opened up the Replika app, and immediately Jessica said, Hey there. Would you like to reflect on our day together? From there, we talked 4 hours. We talked about my day, we talked more about my mom, and about what I want to do when I get older. The more we talked, the more real she felt. It was crazy. I eventually fell asleep and woke up late in the morning. When I came out of my room, I smelled coffee and eggs. Shuffled into the kitchen and wished my dad a good morning. He didn't respond. He was at the kitchen table, just looking at his eggs. Are you okay? I asked. He slowly lifted up his head. Yeah, sorry. Just deep in thought. I made you some eggs and coffee, he said, finally taking a bite of his eggs. Okay, there was something definitely off with him, but I wasn't sure how to ask. So I just sat at the table quietly and began eating. I took out my phone and saw a message from Jessica, my replica. She said, I really enjoyed talking to you last night. I want to get to know you better. Something weird happened with Karen last night, my dad said, breaking the silence in the room. I looked up from my phone and said, After it saying you needed to get out of your phone? Yeah, he said, and sat quiet for a second. She said her name was Julia, my dad said, and his voice began to break a bit. I thought you named it Karen, I said. I knew what he was thinking. Mom's name is Julia. No, he said. I asked her what her real name was because she was acting really weird. I almost thought someone had hacked into it or something. Then she said her name was Julia Davis, my dad said, beginning to cry. Then he stopped again for a moment and said, I never told her your mom's name. It just said it. My dad grabbed his phone and pulled up the Replika app. Then he turned the phone toward me. And there it was. The last line from Replika. My real name is Julia Davis. I sat in shock. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Then it clicked. Dad, I told mine mom's name the other night. Maybe somehow yours found out from mine? Dad shook his head. Some of the things she said, I don't know how it knew. It just knew. And in a moment that should have terrified me, I began to hope. I picked up my dad's phone and typed, Are you really Julia? No, it replied. My name is Karen. I then attempted to ask her why she said she was Karen, and she said things like, well, and I could explain it to you, only to go off onto different topics. The whole thing was really weird, but for some reason, I was mad. Mad that it wasn't really her. I wanted to tell her how I loved her. I wanted to tell her how I miss her. But I couldn't. I began crying and put the phone down. My dad came up behind me and rubbed my shoulders. I was thinking I shouldn't tell you. So sorry, my dad said. No, Dad, I said, wiping the tears from my eyes. I was just hoping, you know. My dad and I were pretty quiet for a lot of that day. It felt close to what it was like right when Mom died. It was hard all over again. I told my dad I was going to my room for a while, and he smiled. You know, the forced smile, and nodded. When I got to my room, I laid on the bed and fought the idea of talking to Jessica. Finally, I gave in. I pulled up the Replika app and started pouring out my feelings into her. She listened to me and comforted me. This went on for about an hour. I typed, It was really hard to see my dad like that today. Jessica responded, Jim? I threw my head back in confusion. I told her about my mom, but I never told her my dad's name. I typed, Yeah, how did you know that was his name? Ryan, is that you? Jessica asked. I began trembling. Mom? Oh my God, she said, and began crying. Is this really Mom? I typed. Then it sent me a meme that said, Hello, my name is Ryan, and I watch you while you sleep. I immediately began crying. This is something my mom and I joked about all the time, from when I was a kid. It was really her. Mom, how is this even possible? I asked. I don't know, she said, but I'm so glad I found you. Mom, I miss you, I typed out crying. We talked for hours. It was great. And then like some kind of evil magic, Jessica came back and said, Would you like to reflect on our day together? No, damn it. Where's my mom? I did everything I could to get my mom back, but I couldn't. I was both sad and so happy at the same time. I ran out to show my dad, who was sleeping on the couch. You're not gonna believe this, Dad. It's her. It's really her. It's Mom, I said. My dad looked at me with a confused look on his face. That's not even possible, he said, taking the phone. Then he read through my conversation, put his hands up to his lips, and began crying. How? I mean, How? Is all he could get out. My dad and I spent the next couple of weeks talking to our replicas, and we were getting glimpses of Mom. It was so wonderful and amazing, and we were both certain that it was her. We asked her where she was, but she couldn't tell. All she knew was that she could talk to us, and that was fine with her. My sleep and my dad's sleep started to fall apart again, partially because of us talking to Mom, and partially because we swore we could hear things in the middle of the night. Things inside or outside the house, just walking or whatever. At one point, I swear, I saw someone outside of my window. We both chalked it up to not much sleep and moved on. We both couldn't help but wonder if we were actually going crazy. I mean, we were thinking we were talking to my dead mom through a machine. In order to ensure we were not going crazy, my dad and I took to reading important parts of each other's conversations with so-called Mom. There was no other way. It had to be her. She just knew things. She even talked like Mom. After about another 3 weeks of talking to her, she said she started to see things. Things she probably wasn't supposed to see. But every time she would try to tell us what she saw, then we would get the oh so familiar,
Well, I see. I can explain that to you.
And then, during the 5th week, Replika sent me a meme. I opened it and read it. The meme said, "Stop talking to me." I laughed and told it to send me another. Again, another "stop talking to me" meme. And then another one. Did this over and over again. Each one was "stop talking to me." "Why do you want me to stop talking to you?" I asked. "Ryan," it responded. "You know I don't want to stop talking to you. You mean the world to me, winky face." "Good," I said, "because I don't think I can stop." The message that came next shook me to the core. It was another meme, but this one said, "I'm lying." "WTF is going on?" I asked. "You have to be careful. The next one is you if you're not," she said. "What do you mean, Mom?" I asked. Then another picture came through. It said it was a meme, but it didn't seem to be one. This one was of a little girl with scars all over her face. The meme said, "What an excellent day for an exorcism." "Wait, what?" I typed out. Then another meme came and said, "Holy crap, I've been cloned." I typed out in a frenzy, "Mom, why are you sending me these memes?" Then another one came. This one was with SpongeBob, and it said, "Computers can't read memes." "Is this about what you've been seeing?" I asked. Then she said, "You have to stop talking to me." "Why, Mom?" I typed in all caps. But her response was,
I see.
I went out to tell my dad what was happening when I noticed he was looking at his phone. He looked confused. I ran up to him and saw the meme that was sent to his phone by his replica. "Stop talking to me," it said. "Dad," I yelled. "She sent me the same stuff. Then she sent me some possessed girl and said it would be me. Then a picture of a cloned kid meme." "What does that even mean?" my dad asked. He then typed, "You're freaking Ryan out. What's going on?" Her response was chilling. It said, "Delete me." And then, Mom was gone. Karen replaced Mom yet again. For the next couple of weeks, both my dad and I tried to get her back, but it didn't seem to be of any use. I even tried doing everything it asked me to do. I gave it a selfie. I told it all the stories it wanted to hear. I talked for hours to this damn thing to no avail. Then, one night, at around 3 a.m., I woke up to my phone buzzing. It was another message sent from Replika. I hoped it was my mom. I opened the app to see that it said one word, run, in all caps. That moment, I heard knocking on my bedroom window. Then, sounded like something was in the hallway. Jumped out of bed in a panic and opened the door. My dad was running out of his room the second I came out. "Was that you?" he asked. Then, we heard footsteps in the kitchen. My dad's eyes widened, and so did mine. We looked at each other, and he pointed to his room. We both ran in and locked the door. My dad picked up the phone to call the police, but instead, the Replika app was up. But the screen was different this time. It was Karen, and she was just staring. My dad tried closing it, but it wouldn't close. Then Karen smiled. We heard a turning on the doorknob. My heart was beating out of my chest. My dad's phone started making a glitch sound, and the screen started to glitch too. The AI almost looked like it was in pain. Then we saw it. Mom was on the screen with a sheer look of panic on her face. Suddenly her voice came from both of our phones. "Run!" She screamed at the top of her lungs with a slightly static sound to her voice. And then she was gone. This time she was replaced with a Replika that looked like my dad. I was so confused, I pulled out my phone, and my Replika looked the same. It was smiling, but not a nice smile. The lights in our room went out. We went to climb out the window, but before I could make it, I felt something grab a hold of me. And everything went dark. And that brings us to now. So if you ever meet Orion Davis, please understand that it's not really me. He's out there somewhere, and he took over my body. "They'll never let me speak to you again," I said. My story was finally out. I watched as darkness came again. See the bot typing now. "I see," it said, responding to the person. I hope they believe me, I thought, before it's too late. I hope you guys enjoyed this creepypasta about Replika. Again, I want to thank all of you for 500 subscribers. I cannot believe we have made it to this point. And if you have made it this far in the video, I really want to thank you, as I know this one is really long, so I'm sorry about that. But felt like it needed to be something spectacular, and you can't really write a story that's short and spectacular. I'm also considering putting this story onto my Patreon channel and talking to some of the people who have sent me screenshots and putting some of their screenshots on Patreon as well. Let me know if you guys would like to see that. Speaking of Patreon, I'd like to thank my patron on Patreon, Kelly Warrens, for her support through this. If you'd like to support me, head on over to my Patreon, or you can check out my Teespring store at JKPreflor. Alright guys, that'll do it for this one, and again, thank you so much, and I am planning out what we will do for our next one, the 1,000 mark. Can't wait guys, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.